Hello YouTube, back once again with my film reviews, and the other night I saw the somewhat new horror movie, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Now, before talk about this, I should probably talk about spiritual predecessor, Cloverfield, and what I thought about that. It's decent. I like it. It's definitely cut above your average found footage fare. The money shots were good, like the stuff with, like, the scenes, like, where, the Statue of Liberty's head just gets flung through the middle of New York. That was pretty cool. And yeah, and I'll say it was one of the few found footage movies that made me believe why no one put the camera down. Because if a giant monster started attacking New York, probably there would be tons of people who would just pull out their cameras and never put them down, just wanting to shoot the thing. So even though I did not think it was great, but I liked on the whole. So here we are with its spiritual successor, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and yeah, well. Let's talk about this movie. The plot of this movie is it is about a woman played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead who gets, in the opening credit sequence, gets into a car crash and she awakens in an underground bunker run by John Goodman, who claims that some sort of apocalyptic event has happened outside. The surface is uninhabitable and he saved her life. And yeah, and from there, basically, it's just a huge game of paranoia as Mary Elizabeth Winstead tries to escape, wondering if she should be afraid of John Goodman, if she should try to escape this bunker, or if she's telling the truth. That's the plot of the movie. Let's get into the good and bad of this movie. Okay, the good, number one, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as the lead. She was wonderful in this movie. One, she kicked so much ass. She was so intelligent from beginning to end. Like, just the way she tries to escape are all so clever. Like, from the word go, she's trying to figure out ways to get out of, like, the bunker, and yeah, like, she's basically the survivor you wish you could be in this situation. Like, considering in horror movies how most leads are usually complete idiots, she's anything but that. She is so intelligent, is always so resourceful and pragmatic, and I just gotta give her credit. She was great being the straight person in this insanity of the situation she was in. So yeah, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, what a fantastic lead she was. You cared for her, you wanted to see her get out of there the entire movie. So good for her. But there was also John Goodman as the runner of the bunker, and John Goodman, for an actor who usually just does really likable film roles, he did a fantastic job in this, because I can't think of a single film role like this, except for maybe, Norman Bates from the first Psycho, in which, like, when you first meet him, there is this feeling of ambiguity on whether you should be afraid of this guy or not. Like, is this guy really creepy, or is he just being really awkwardly sincere? Like, you just don't know, like, cause you just don't know, is this guy telling the truth or not? Is there some sort of apocalyptic event going on outside? Did he save Mary Elizabeth Winstead's life in the beginning? Like, you just don't know, and it just makes every situation with him so uncomfortable, like, because you just don't know if he's telling the truth or not. Like, if you should feel safe with this guy, or you should be really afraid of this guy. And so he was so uncomfortable and terrifying from beginning to end. And I have to give John Goodman some credit, even though he is able to keep such a seriously unpleasant performance going the whole movie. He really is able to yuck it up in a few scenes that were really great and memorable. So John Goodman was amazing as the runner of the bunker. That, and finally, for the third member of the cast, the third person in the bunker, John Gallagher Jr. Not much to say about this role, just a very likable performance from beginning to end. You always felt more calm and at ease when he was on screen with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, because he was such a nice guy that you're like, you felt calmer when he was around. But yeah, the other great things about this movie, though, the ambiguity of this film was just so brilliant from beginning to end, because, like, this is my problem, like, this didn't have the problem with The Witch when I said The Witch would have been so much better if there was a feeling of ambiguity if there was a witch or not. Like, instead of how in The Witch they show in the first 5 minutes there's a witch. Like, in this movie, you just don't know for most of it, is John Goodman telling the truth or not? So you're always just so uncomfortable. Like, they're just so uncomfortable. Like, you're basically just have to take it, like, have to see it from Mary Elizabeth Winstead's perspective, like, you don't know, is there some sort of crazy event going on, or, like, should I be afraid? Should I try to get out of here, or should I stay in this bunker? Like, is this the safest place for me to be? You just don't know, and, so yeah, the ambiguity of this film is just fantastically handled from beginning to end. The film is wonderfully directed. I think this was this director's first credit. What a fantastic film to start on. Just because he was he was just able to turn the bunker from just so cozy to so creepy on a dime. Like on the way, like you just don't know on the dime, like if this is honestly a safe place or not, just like the main character doesn't know, like, so it was able to switch from being cozy to creepy at any given moment, and also there was some wonderful pieces of black comedy in this movie. This film did have a very dark sense of humor and a few scenes that were great, so yeah, that was the good of this movie. I take issue with this movie though, and the bad all comes from spoilers, so if you don't want to know how this movie ends, just know right now my final score for this movie is a very solid 4 out of 5. I thought it was a great movie. I loved it. I had a lot of it. I took some issue with it, though. And that's the spoilers of the movie, so I don't want to know what it is. Cut out now, but here's what I had issues with in this movie. One, John Gallagher Jr., he was just one of those characters. You were just counting down the minutes until he died. He dies, and it would have been really surprising if he didn't die. I would have given the movie credit for saying, God, like, they really did a good job at wrong-footing me with that character. No, he was just one of those characters, like, you're way too nice to the main character. You're gonna have to die at some point, and he does. And I was like, well, that certainly happened, But that's not where my main complaint comes from. My main problem with this movie is the entire last third of this movie. Let me stress this. It's not bad. It is by no means a badly made ending. This movie, though, I felt like the first 2/3 of this were an A horror movie, like an A-level horror movie. Like it was a film based off fear and not loud bangs, scares, or like over-the-top monsters or anything like that. No, it's very much built on just the fear of ambiguity and paranoia, like legitimate fear, like the fear that something could happen. But when you hit the last third, it starts to feel like, well, at first, when you first learn, okay, like I said, this is a spoiler, so when you learn John Goodman's out of his goddamn mind, and he tries to kill Mary Elizabeth Winstead. At first, it turns into a really it's still well made, but it just feels like a B slasher movie. Like there's like a scene like where he gets thrown into a thing of like acid. And I was like, and then he comes back looking more like a monster. My thought was like, you would have not have survived that. You would be dead being thrown into that acid. But it's just like a really over the top escape sequence. Still, it was fine, but I was like, oh god, movie, you did such a good job at building up, but that was nothing compared to what happened afterwards. Because here's the major twist of this movie. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she gets outside at the end of the movie, only to learn that it has been invaded by aliens. So the main connection between this and Cloverfield, is my guess, is what I think most people assume as a sea monster is actually an alien in this. It was actually an alien, and he called his other alien brothers down, and it's a fun action sequence, her fighting the alien ship, and but my god, it just didn't work for me, considering the first 2/3 were just all terrifying build-up and fear. That last third was just when it became, it wasn't, it was absolutely not at all scary anymore. The moment the aliens show up, I was like, oh my god, are you serious? I was just, it felt like a B-action movie, a well-made B-action sci-fi movie, but still a B sci-fi movie. I was like, why? Why, movie? You were so close to being perfect. If you could keep it up like you did those first 2/3, this would have been a perfect horror movie in my eyes. Well, I will say this, even though I was very disappointed by the last third, how it turned into a sci-fi flick, considering the fact that the first two-thirds were about was a claustrophobic paranoia horror film. If they do make a sequel, because the film end like the way the film ends, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she does survive and she decides to help against the alien invasion. If they like to kind of do like a Alien to Alien sequel, in which like the sequel is like more of an action movie with horror elements, I'd be down for that. I'd love to see a sequel to this movie. So yeah, on the whole, I'm giving, like I said, I give 10 Cloverfield Lane a very solid 4 out of 5. I still loved it. It's still great. Those first two-thirds are just perfect in my eyes. The last third is where I think it's gonna fall apart a bit for me, but it's still very well made, the last third. So yeah, that's my thoughts on 10 Cloverfield Lane. YouTube, as always, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.